Hey everybody, welcome back. We are getting ready to do some more reactions. This time we are watching, trying to decide which one I want to do. We are reacting to, can't remember how they call the title of it, Sons of Sam. The Sons of Sam, A Descent into Darkness. We're on episode 3, and basically the big thing out of the second one is that law enforcement in New York have not acknowledged, have said they are going to probe about whether there are other perpetrators involved in the killings that have been going on. Was it a group action or was it just David Berkowitz? I wanted to say Burkowski, and I was like, that's not right. Berkowitz. so so that's kind of where we're at with that. You know, there does seem to be a lot of coincidences that back up what the journalist is saying. And so now I imagine we're going to go more into it. What did law enforcement find as they were investigating, that sort of thing? That's what, at least what I'm hoping is the path we're taking. So far, it's not too slow, too dragged out. There is some repetition, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a couple of days since I watched it. So there has been some repetition, but so far the show is going at a pretty decent pace for the most part. So let's see what they're talking about in this episode and kind of go from there. And the title of this one is called The Ultimate Evil.
From the beginning, I knew something was very wrong with the case against David Berkowitz. I believed the confession was a hoax.
And the question is, I don't know if I'd call the confession a hoax per se just yet, but was the confession in order to get fame? Was the confession part of his psychosis? Was the confession real and he's part of this group that is killing?
And I told him we're going to give it a shot, but I'm going to be working against you as much as I am with you.
Well, and it's good to play devil's advocate, challenge the questions and statements and all that kind of stuff. You just don't want to be a complete antagonist, if that makes sense.
A friend of mine had a line he used to say, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean somebody isn't watching you.
That's true. Yeah, him saying about feeling like they were watched all the time. There's certain areas where I live where you don't just go wandering into those areas. In the one county that I worked, I had 3 fellows in my group that were from a certain area, and it was well known you do not drive those roads in a white vehicle because they shoot first and ask questions later. Even law enforcement were hesitant to go out into that area. So at the time, I had a white Jeep. And the guys, I think they were half joking, but I think they were kind of serious too. That it's that, hey, we trust you kind of attitude. I think it was their way of giving an olive branch, but they said I should come out that way sometime and come check things out. And I was like, I'm good. They said, oh, we'll let everybody know that you're allowed to be up there. And I said, that's all right. I'm good. So they had a system. They could hide from the cops for days if there was a warrant out for them or anything like that. They had a system worked out, and this is in the woods. So they had a relay system, a notification system to alert each other, and certain things meant certain things. Just like back in the day with the Underground Railroad, with the quilts meant different things and stuff like that. It was kind of like that, kind of. Although it was not necessarily for the good of mankind. I get it when they say, they go to this area and, the hair stands up on the back of your neck or, stuff like that. There's a reason why our body goes into an alert system. So, yeah, let's see what else they might have discovered.
Not one person in Minot said anything, not a word, a phrase that disputed what Maury Terry had told us
That's
all day
interesting.
long.
It's important to be able to back up what you're saying. It's one thing to have a theory and hypothesize about stuff, but it's another when you start saying, well, I have this and I have this. Now, there is a difference between cold hard facts and coincidences and that sort of thing. But when you have law enforcement telling you what they've discovered, it lands a little bit more credibility. And I say it that way because although the majority of law enforcement that I know are good guys and doing their best and all that sort of thing, there are some bad ones too. So that's the only reason why I'm phrasing it the way I did. You know, we don't have any reason to not believe these officers in Minot. Hi, are you going to join us? You quit talking now. Yeah, you don't like all this true crime stuff, do you? Yeah, it's kind of creepy, isn't it? You would protect me, wouldn't you? Would you claw their eyes out? No, she'd go run and hide. The only ones that don't hide are this one, Purdy. I don't know if you can see her. I don't have my screen up. And then she must be off in the bedroom. Her sister, Buddy. Buddy struts around the house like it's her place, but she wouldn't attack the person. She'd just walk up to them and ask them to pet her. She agreed. uh,
That, in fact, others
Santucci,
did cooperate.
DA.
Maury was able to convince Queens District Attorney Santucci to
Okay.
reopen.
Santucci reopened that case because he needed a little boost in the public's mind.
Is what this detective, former detective, saying actual, or is he just kind of bothered by the fact that people now may think that he didn't do a good enough job investigating? The video we're going to watch at the end of this, in one of his other videos, he talked about how nobody likes to be questioned on the job that they've done. Doesn't matter whether you're law enforcement or other. It's one of those things where we just don't like to be questioned on how good of a job we're doing. And so, is that the case for this detective or not? So, hopefully, we get some of those answers.
I would embark on a deeper probe of the other real-life son of Sam.
I was going to say he died in a car crash, right?
Drug first became active in the Church of Scientology to curb his addictions.
There's a whole other thing about the Scientology church, the process.
Called themselves the Process Church of the Final Judgment.
I haven't heard of them before.
We talk about the end and the new beginning, and the end of what is now.
Sometimes the way they talk just drives me crazy. And when I say they, just anybody in a more extreme end of religion.
As things would have it, one of their neighbors at this time was Charles Manson.
In California,
So is that how he fits into all of this?
said they were a pseudo-religious cult. This is where they lived, an old rundown
Swan Ranch. They teased the children in the beginning of this.
And I was about to find out how right I truly was.
Did he hit too close to home?
Prisoner number 78A-1976.
Manson?
It was from Berkowitz.
Oh, okay.
Son of Sam himself.
I didn't look at what city or state.
John Carr is deceased.
He could have gotten the information about John in the news.
Alone.
I could not believe what I was seeing.
Sacrificed?
There was a stain on her jeans.
Were
Feet
her jeans
and
off of
legs.
her? Because he said she was
Well,
naked
one of
from the
them had
waist
been,
down.
she was from Bismarck, North Dakota. What happened was she
So is
went to
that near
church.
Minot?
And claimed that he either killed Arliss Perry or he knew who did.
Saying that you know who killed somebody or that you
The
killed
St.
them or
Clair
you know
police
who
were
did,
intrigued
that's
by Pei Wen's
talking out both
dedication to
sides.
They'll kill my father.
Is his father still alive? Oh yeah, he is.
killing of Stacy Moskowitz is on film. The whole Moskowitz
Snuff
killing
film?
was orchestrated. A snuff film.
Ugh.
So it's obviously somebody was hunting for something in the apartment. The police
They think he had the film.
investigate.
These people performed rituals. He had been strangled and knifed in the back of the head.
And now it was time for the world to know.
I still don't think there's enough to say for certain. I think it's all still just connections.
That Satanists today have encroached into every level of society.
We're probably at the end of this, but before I forget to tell y'all, when I was still in high school, my mom worked as a transcriptionist at a mental health inpatient facility. And I remember one day her coming home, and my sister and I were not allowed to go anywhere. She kept the doors locked and the windows locked at all times, even, during daylight hours and everything. And we lived in a small town. There was one stoplight in the town at this time. And there's now three. But, you could walk the whole loop of town in 15 minutes. It was not a very big town. I wouldn't even call it a town. But she had been scared to death by something she had to type up. And what it was, I don't know if it was one, I think it was multiple of them, but at least one person of this group of male teenagers that were from Ohio had been admitted to the facility, and they had been stealing babies and sacrificing them in the name of Satanism. And from what I understand, I don't know how they ended up in Pennsylvania, but from what I gathered, the acts were happening in Ohio. So I don't know if they just happened to be traveling through Pennsylvania or what, but she was terrified. And this would have been late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there, somewhere between 88 and 92. So, yeah, during that time period, I remember there probably is not as much as there was during this time, but this was what we're in the early 80s now with this one, because I think it started in the 70s, the killings, right? 76. Oh gosh, I'm lost on the timeline now. I think the time period that they're talking about in that interview, it's the early 80s, but I could be wrong on my timeline.
Games like Dungeons and Dragons incorporate actual occult practices into the body of the game.
So this craze about Satanism and the evils and all that kind of stuff totally got out of hand. And the reason why I say that is because if you've studied witches or Wicca at all, then you know that the umbrella of Wicca, it's not evil. And there's actually a lot of positive message out there and all that kind of stuff. Now, paganism or Satanism, paganism is an umbrella also. There's paganism, there's Wicca, and then a lot of stuff under Wicca, but Wicca is under pagan and that sort of thing. But it just because somebody says they're a witch or something like that does not mean they're evil. They're talking about all of these items. The Dungeons and Dragons, my brother played that when he was a dragon dungeon master back when he was in high school. But that being said, my brother also went to an extreme on religion in that He believed that the one Beatles record played backwards was giving satanic messages. I think it's the White Album. Was it the Revolution? I can't remember exactly which song or which album, but you know that the one story about the Beatles album being played backwards, being satanic. He believed certain images were the portal for the devil, and so one of my things is if you've watched some of my other stuff, you may know that I collect action figures. Well, some of those action figures are Spawn action figures, but he believes that the skull symbol in the Spawn name, is it the A? I think it's the A that has the Spawn symbol, but he believes that that symbol is the portal for the devil. He also believed that the purple Teletubby was a portal for the devil. You know, all these crazy, crazy beliefs. And, you know, I even challenged him at one point and I said, I thought anything could be the devil for the portal. And that's why you always have to practice your faith and do good deeds and, you know, and do a tally of your own actions. And, you know, it's not a tally. Whatever it is, when you go to confession and you're airing all your things. But, you know, I was like, you know, one symbol, Smurfette, is not a portal for the devil. Um, you know, it's just crazy, crazy stuff and beliefs. And all of it comes from this fear of what people don't know or don't understand, or this fear that is purposely created. So if the Manson murders were done to create fear, and if the Son of Sam killings were done to create fear and chaos, that doesn't mean that Satanism in general is for that purpose. In fact, there are different type of Satanists. I know there's definitely two branches. There might be more than that, but depending on which branch depends on what principles and book they follow and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, lumping all Satanists in together is not quite fair either.
Papa Smurf drawing a pentagram, a five-pointed occultic star on the ground. He lights candles at each point. He danced inside the pentagram.
When did Papa Smurf do that?
Let's kill the demon and let's wreck the home, the body that he's possessing. We'll be right back.
And that's dangerous talk. You don't want people to take the law into their own hands.
Maury, the public will never, ever truly believe you, no matter how well your evidence is presented.
Well, it didn't help that he took back everything he said, too.
The guy has been chasing obsessively and dreaming of this moment.
He doesn't.
Out he walks.
Oh, okay. So do you think it's interesting? Turn off the music so I don't get any bands while I'm talking. So I think it's interesting that they are talking about all of the. So the show is, you know, obviously from the first episode, it's being presented from the perspective of this journalist. This journalist is apparently not around because we don't have any current interviews with him. They're all footage that they have of him or talking through the friends or the ex-wives or whatever. So the man has died. I am hoping, and I only just thought about this in the last 15 minutes of the show, I am hoping that the cult does not have him killed because he's getting too close to the truth or something like that. But hopefully his death is something else, not hoping that he died, but you know what I mean. I think it's interesting that we get some of the facts, we get this rabbit hole that he went down, and he admits that it's a rabbit hole, but then it sounds like he had given up on it because he was losing his credibility or had lost his credibility. But then somebody calls him up and boom, he's right back on it again. So I think this last episode will be interesting. They've got to tie everything up. Like I said in the very first episode, I didn't remember anybody else being convicted of the crimes or being associated with the name Son of Sam. We'll have to see there. But that's pretty much my response for this episode. There are a lot of connections, but not any proof of anything. So I believe with that one statement that the person said. I can't remember if it's the former detective or for somebody else, but it is interesting, all the connections, but it still doesn't prove anything. So we've got one more episode, and I'm not going to be able to do it today because I've got to be at work in an hour and I've got to get ready and everything. Thank you for joining me on this one. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.